The Toronto Maple Leafs are heading into their 106th season in the NHL, and as usual, expectations are high. Hey everyone, Rob Wong, joined alongside by Postmedia national hockey writer Michael Traikos to preview the Maple Leafs 2022-2023 season. And Michael, we got to begin with the head coach, Sheldon Keefe, who I know you wrote about it earlier this offseason, that according to the odds makers, he is one of the coaches that could be on the firing seat early on here. How hot is that chair for Sheldon Keefe heading into the season?
Well, you mentioned it, Rob. The expectations are sky high for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Obviously, they need to get out of the first round. But with, past playoff disappointments comes a lot of baggage. And I think Sheldon Keefe is, carrying around a lot of baggage along with GM Kyle Dubas and a lot of this core of the roster. So, things go off the rails early. And, when you got two new goaltenders and you've got quite a bit of new faces in there, things could go sideways early. I could see a scenario where Sheldon Keefe does, bite the bullet in that regard. And, the thing to keep in mind really is that you've got Barry Trotz available as a free agent coach. So whether it's the Leafs or another team, I think a lot of people are going to be looking at Barry Trotz as sort of a lifeline where if things aren't going well, we've got this guy who's won a Stanley Cup and is really highly regarded as a coach. So that's got to be in the back of Sheldon Keefe's mind is that, if they're off to a bad start, and let's not forget that Atlantic Division is going to be competitive. It's not just Toronto, it's Tampa, it's Florida, it's Boston, and as well, you got some rising teams like Ottawa. So if Toronto is falling behind the pack early on, I think they're going to be making a change, and maybe Barry Trotz is going to be finishing the job here.
So you talked about the goaltending and new faces in this year, and Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov. Out are Jack Campbell and Peter Mrazek. Obviously, Murray and Samsonov, a couple of guys coming off, some tough seasons elsewhere. Murray, of course, a couple of years in Ottawa where injury and underperformance hurt him. Samsonov struggled last year in Washington. A lot of question marks surrounding this goaltending duo. What kind of faith do you have in this tandem?
You know what? I might be in the minority, but I don't think goaltending is going to be as big of a deal as a lot of people are making it out to be for the Toronto Maple Leafs. For the simple reason, this team scores so many goals. Like, if they're going to be scoring 4 to 5 goals a game, it doesn't matter. Like, you and I could be the goaltenders, and it's not going to have that impact. Where it's going to have an impact, I think, is come playoff time. So as long as the Toronto Maple Leafs can get a healthy Matt Murray, and I think that's the key part is if this guy's going to be missing a significant chunk of time and it's Ilya Samsonov playing 60-plus games, you might have a big problem there. But I still don't think it's going to be as big of a problem where, Austin Matthews can't score this team out of the trouble. So, come playoff time when you're going into a series against maybe an Andrei Vasilevsky or a Sergei Bobrovsky in Florida, that's when I can see it becoming an issue where Toronto might not have the goaltenders to win a Stanley Cup. But for the regular season, this team they're offensively too strong to have goaltending be a problem.
And so the postseason really is the biggest question mark. A lot of people wondering, is this finally the year, Michael, maybe not all the way to the Stanley Cup final and hoisting Lord Stanley's mug, but do they actually win a round this year? It's got to go step by step for Kyle Dubas and company.
It's a low bar, Rob, but they have to clear it. And, it begins by winning that first round. And I think if they get over that hump, we could see this team make a real deep run at the playoffs. But ultimately, they have to win a round. And I don't care if you're going to have to face Tampa again, whether it's Florida. It doesn't matter the opponent. There's no more excuses. Toronto has to get out of the first round. And for me, they've got to get to at least the conference final for you to say, okay, Kyle Dubas, you can come back, or Sheldon Keefe, you can come back and stay with the team. It really has to be that way. You look around the league, and a team like Edmonton reaches the conference final last year. They're trying to build off that. Toronto hasn't built off anything because they keep going out in the first round. So, it might not be Stanley Cup or bust, but it's got to be pretty darn close for the Toronto Maple Leafs this year.
Well, as always the case, I'm sure we'll have plenty of things to talk about during the season when it comes to the blue and white. For all of Michael's great work, check it out across Postmedia, and you can find him on Twitter at Michael_Traikos.